Isis was probably the most famous of all Egyptian goddesses. She was initially associated with Hathor, thus being seen as the patron god of many motherly qualities. However, she further rose in significance during the Old Kingdom period, as one of the prominent characters of the Osiris myth. She is the wife of Osiris. In this myth of Osiris and Isis, she not only resurrects her murdered husband, the divine king Osiris, but also successfully gives birth to and protects his heir, Horus. Simply put, the great Isis was also venerated as the mother of Horus. This narrative of the Osiris myth was symbolically mirrored in the affairs of the ancient Egyptian state, with the very name Isis being derived from Egyptian Set, the seat, which refers to the throne. In essence, the Egyptian goddess, as the mother of Horus, was perceived as the divine mother of the kings. Consequently, Horus was associated with the pharaohs themselves. This analogy of the throne was also prevalent in the very depiction of Isis, with her original headdress carrying an empty throne that signified the seat of her slain husband. Over time, Isis was given various epithets like Ritkikau, the Great Magic, and even Mutnetja, the Mother of the Gods. Judging by these titles, it doesn't come as a surprise that Isis overtook all the previous Egyptian goddesses in popularity. In fact, later on, some of them were relegated, including the lion-headed Sekhmet, to mere aspects of Isis. Even the iconography of historically older female deities, like Hatmit, the fish goddess worshipped in the Nile Delta, was taken over by Isis. Interesting fact about Isis. The worship of Isis also reached beyond the traditional boundaries of ancient Egypt, to account for a persistent cult that was spread across the later Greco-Roman world. For example, there were temples dedicated to Isis in both Pompeii and Tivoli in Italy. Osiris was one of the major gods of ancient Egypt during and after the Old Kingdom period, and one of the main characters of the Osiris myth. He was the husband of Isis, the father of Horus, and the brother of Set, and was often perceived as the king of the underworld. A part of the later formed Abydos triad, comprising him, his wife Isis, and his son Horus. Osiris was possibly the only Egyptian deity who was directly referred to simply as a god. This alludes to his immense prominence among the ancient Egyptian worshippers, many of whom considered Osiris the first king of Egypt. In addition to his role as the god of the underworld, a title that was passed to him after his murder by his brother Set, Osiris was also regarded as the god of transition, since death in itself was not seen as an absolute condition, and even regeneration. Pertaining to the latter, Herishaf, a fertility god depicted as a man with a ram's head, was often identified with Osiris, and Ra. Furthermore, Osiris also fulfilled his duty as the judge of the dead. Consequently, he was the central funerary god who decided the deceased's fate after the aforementioned weighing of the heart ceremony. Interestingly enough, in such cases, we can understand the pragmatic nature of the gods of Egypt and religion. For example, as opposed to advocating Puritan morality, the deceased was only expected to live a balanced former life. Finally, coming to the physical attributes of Osiris, the god of the underworld was often depicted as a mummified bearded king with green or black skin, to represent both death and resurrection. And as a living god, Osiris was represented rather ostentatiously as a handsome man in the royal attire wearing the crown of Upper Egypt, a headdress known as the 8F, while carrying the crook and flail, both symbols of kingship. Interesting fact about Osiris. While Osiris is often associated with regeneration, he was never believed to have resurrected, because Egyptians didn't believe in the resurrection of the dead, even for gods. Thus the regeneration might have related to the continuation of the life cycle through our descendants on earth. Horus, the most well-known of all avian gods of Egypt, was also possibly one of the first known national Egyptian gods. In fact, Horus was worshipped in various forms and aspects from the pre-dynastic period to the Roman Egypt epoch. However, there are at least 6 known Horus entities that are mentioned in Egyptian mythology, and we will only talk about the deity otherwise hailed as Horus the Younger, the son of Osiris and Isis, and the rival of Set, his father's murderer. Completing the Abydos triad, Horus, the son of Osiris, was regarded as a powerful sky god who was designated as the divine protector of the pharaohs. His legacy is also fueled by his epic mythical battle against the adversary Set-e as a part of the Osiris myth. Horus emerged victorious in this clash, thereby uniting the 2 lands of Egypt, albeit after losing one of his eyes. In essence, the avenging Egyptian deity was also perceived as a war god whose name was frequently invoked before actual battles by the rulers and commanders. As for his physical attributes, Horus, the war god, especially when combined with the sun god Ra to form Ra-Ha-Rat, was usually depicted as a falcon-headed man wearing a crown or schent, the symbol of kingship over unified Egypt. On the other hand, his restored eye, personified as the Eye of Horus, was the ancient Egyptian symbol for protection and sacrifice. In the Osiris myth, Set was portrayed as the antagonist among the Egyptian gods responsible for murdering his brother Osiris. However, if we consider the historical evidence, Set was perceived as a divine entity since the pre-dynastic period, before the 3rd millennium BC, with his center of worship possibly originating from the town of Nubt, which is one of the oldest settlements in Upper Egypt. And interestingly enough, Nubt served as the gateway to the eastern desert and its gold deposits, which possibly explains the association of Set with the deserts of Egypt. In any case, Set was originally regarded as a more or less benevolent and esteemed entity who sometimes served as an ally of Ra, and was tasked with the protection of oases in the deserts. But over time, he was also associated with peculiar and frightening phenomena like eclipses, storms, and thunders, thus suggesting a dark side to his personification. Other historians have hypothesized that the battle between Set and Horus, as opposed to a confrontation between good and evil, was rather a symbolic representation of the struggle to unite Egypt under one ruler. Lastly, the strange nature of Set as one of the dualistic gods is also manifested in his depictions. They often showcase a strange creature that is simply known as the Set animal, which could be a composite of an aardvark, a donkey, and a jackal, or a fennec fox. Interesting fact about Set. A few scholars have argued that the Set animal possibly represents a giraffe, though ancient Egyptians seem to have differentiated between giraffes and the enigmatic hybrid creature. And the late Egyptian period, post-664 BC, artists tended to depict Set exclusively with a donkey head.